It's time for us to dare to dream again. And our prayer needs to be, God, let your kingdom come. And let your will be done in me as it is in heaven. He wants to heal the brokenheartedness of your life and take you out of the path you've been on and put you back on the path that he has for your life. Please hear me. I am anointed to tell you your past is pardoned.
The people have had enough. They've been expressing it. They have reached their threshold of tolerance when it comes to the same old. And all of the campaign promises that are made in these manifestos every single 5 years, they're only recycled ideas that are never fulfilled. It is imperative as behemoths we must understand that we cannot continue to just be consumers. They try to reinvent these cliches every single 5 years. That's why I'm interested to know what's going to come about this 5 years. The philosophy of the kingdom government is to govern the Bahamas according to the preamble of our Constitution under the supremacy of God, upholding our Christian values and our Christian principles. Yes, young man, I am a student of Dr. Miles Monroe. I do believe in kingdom principles. I do believe in kingdom economy. I do believe in kingdom law.
God has been good to us and deposited people in this country who have all those attributes that you're talking about, who have the passion, who want to serve people, who have a burning desire to do it. But there are many things in their way, and I'm saying to you, as people listening today, they're wondering, well then, who qualifies for leadership? Because it seems so idealistic. It seems, that, you've got to almost be perfect to fit this bill as a leader, a true leader. So I'm saying to you, what does that mean in the country today, considering that we have all these things that needs to be fixed? How do we galvanize? How do people internalize and find themselves as a leader, knowing what the circumstances are, but everybody at the same time playing it safe? Well, I don't want to get involved. I don't even want to call a talk show because, they may know my voice. And then, the next thing, and I ain't get my house. Then, I try to get this loan. I just come home from school, I try to build a house with Marina wife. And there are many excuses. But back in the day, Dr. Monroe, Lyndon Pindling and A.D. Hannon and all these guys who ended up in the area of politics, they came home. Paul Adley and many others. And they were willing to lose. They were willing to lose everything.
I think you just said it right. You said people are playing it safe. What I'm saying is that true leaders have no safety mechanisms. They're safe.
Telling me that you want to know more about what Dr. Kevin King is actually putting down. We've all heard about Dr. Kevin King speaking about the kingdom government. He believes the time has come for the Bahamas to change its paradigm. He believes that the time has come for the Bahamas.
The people have had enough. They've been expressing it. They have reached their threshold of tolerance when it comes to the same old. And all of the campaign promises that are made in these manifestos every single 5 years, they're only recycled ideas.
And today he comes back again today to tell us more about what's planned for the kingdom government. Now, of course, as I said earlier, a lot of you are interested in this because you've been telling me, Steve, we need a paradigm shift. We need to do something urgently. The two governments that we got here, boy, they doing all kind of fool. And we need to get rid of both of them. And of course, today we're going to talk a little bit about them. Not in this particular one, but later on today, later in the show. And of course, I want to talk about this kingdom government because it's fascinating, it's new, it's dynamic, and it's something that's speaking to all of our hearts. And so, Dr. King, how are you, sir?
Excellent, thank you, Steve. Good afternoon.
And I know that you've got some very, very special guests on the show today with us. And we talk about Samuel Johnson, who is the chairman of this organization, Director of Security, and also Mr. Bullitt, Derek Bullitt, who is also Director of Research and Information, Developments and Infrastructure. Gentlemen, how you all doing today?
Fantastic, Steve.
Please,
Pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. My name is Derek Bullitt.
Good afternoon, Brother McKinney, and good afternoon, Bahamas. It's a pleasure to be sharing with you today. My name is Samuel Johnson, National Chairman and Director of Security.
That's wonderful. And of course, this is Dr. King. I take it you're Dr. King, right?
I am.
So what's been happening? I've talked about the fact that you were looking at this kingdom government, and people have been very interested in this. People have been saying to me, boy, we need to hear more. And so you're back for the third time in a row, and you've been taking over the Tuesday specials. But we love it, and it's interesting that you've had so many things to say. It makes a lot of sense. That's what people have been telling me. It makes a whole lot of sense, and so we want to hear more of what you have to say today on this Kingdom Government episode. That's what I'm going to call it.
Okay. Well, Steve, if you would permit me for 2 minutes, I will
Sure.
lay the foundation for our show today. O Lord God, Yahweh Elohim, God of our fathers, are you not God in heaven? And do you not rule over all the kingdoms and nations of the world? And in your hands is there not power and might, so that no one is able to withstand you? Are you not our God, who drove out the inhabitants of this land before your people in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and gave this land to this people on majority rule, as you did in Israel for your friend Abraham forever? And we dwell in it, and we have built you a sanctuary in these isles of the sea, for your name is in this place. On July 10th, 1973, saying, if disaster comes upon us, sword, judgment, pestilence, or famine, we will stand before this temple, and in your presence, for your name, Yahweh Elohim, is in this temple, and cry out to you in our afflictions, and you will hear us and save us. And now here in our country are the people from all nations, kindred, and tongues, whom you have allowed us to accept as guests, here in these isles of the sea, these rocks and keys, your holy mountains. They came to these isles from the north, from the south, east, and west. Here they are, rewarding us by coming to throw us out of our possession, which you have given us to inherit. They have come with their idols, their oppression, their deceptions, their drugs, their guns. They have exploited your people, exploited and stolen their land, stolen and continue to steal our natural resources, and continue to enslave your people economically. The IMF, the IDB, the World Bank, the United Nations, and even our own, whom you have allowed to govern us, have misled and continues to oppress your people. Greed has gripped their hearts. Oh, our God, will you not judge them? For we have no power against this great multitude that continues to come up against us, nor do we know what to do, but our eyes are upon you. Good evening.
Amen.
I'd like to have an honest conversation with the citizenry of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
I'm listening to you.
The Bahamian now stands at the crossroads of human destiny. He and she is at a place where they must either step forward or backward. If they go backward, they die. If they go forward, it's with the hope of a better life. Those of us who have developed our minds scientifically and intellectually are compelled by duty to step out among the thousands of the unthinking masses and convince them of the seriousness of the age and times in which we live. We are either on our way to a higher existence or extermination as Bahamians. The shallow-minded person who can see no farther than his nose is now the greatest stumbling block in the way of progress of the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. He tells us that we must be satisfied with our condition, that we must not think of building up a nation of our own, that we must not seek to organize ourselves or depend upon ourselves, but that we must depend upon the good nature of the other fellow from another place for the solutions of the problems that now confront us. This is a dangerous policy, and it is my duty to warn thousands of Bahamians against this kind of leadership, a leadership that tries to make us believe that all will be well without us taking upon ourselves the task of bettering our own condition, politically, industrially, educationally, and otherwise. The time has come for those of us who have the vision of the future to inspire our people to a closer kinship, to a closer love of self, because it is only through this appreciation of self-worth will we be able to rise to that higher life that will make us not an extinct race in the future, but a race of people fit to survive. And we understand, Steve, that the challenges before us are great, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. But we, the Bahamian people, come against you in the name of our God, Yahweh Elohim, His Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, and His Ruach HaKodesh, Holy Spirit. For we, Bahamians, we are a peculiar people of a royal priesthood and a holy nation. The new kingdom government, whose mandate it is to govern the Bahamas for all Bahamians and people legally living in the Bahamas, to unite for the common cause of building a new and better Bahamas. Our mandate is to build the new Bahamas from the bottom up, from the inside out, thereby becoming owners and possessors of this great country to the honor and glory of Almighty God, as stated in the preamble of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. A kingdom government system that will allow our nation to fulfill its God-given mandate. A kingdom government system that will no longer swear its allegiance to the Queen, her heirs and successors according to law. These old weapons cannot hold us anymore. A systematic and structural change, one that will be guided by righteous and spiritual values under the supremacy of God, as put forth in the inspired preamble of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Kingdom law, kingdom principles, kingdom culture, kingdom economy. Let me therefore say, to those of you that have controlled our economy for all these years, we want what is rightfully ours. As citizens of this great country, it cannot be that as a small nation whose wealth is beyond comprehension, that we should live in abject poverty, that we should continue to be burdened with taxes in order to make your lives more pleasurable, and there is no relief in sight. But we can no longer sit by and watch our beloved country continue to deteriorate as it has for the past 25 years. We want to be free, in every sense of the word, economically, independently, mentally. We therefore serve notice on all foreign organizations, the United Nations, hear me, the European Union, the OECD, the G7 countries, the IMF, the IBD, World Bank, Standard & Poor's, Moody's, that seek to continually influence our way of life. We understand that we cannot be isolated as a country unto ourselves, but we will not be intimidated. We, the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, will not conform to your way of life, not socially, not morally, not economically. Our forefathers fought over whether they should have half a loaf or a whole loaf. But I say under this kingdom government movement, we shall not only bake the bread, we shall own the bakery, for we shall no longer settle for the crumbs off the table, for the time has come for the Bahamian people to eat from the top of the table. It is our mandate to possess this land, everything in it, everything below it, and everything above it, that all of our people, regardless of the color of their skin, will have all things common.
In the name of Yahweh
You sound very, very
Elohim.
motivated, that's for sure.
Hallelujah.
You sound all enthusiastic. And I've got to ask you a series of questions here today because, you talk about this kingdom government. It sounds good. People love it. People love it, the theory of it. But you're talking about changing the Westminster system. You're talking about getting away from this two-party structure here in the Bahamas. You're talking about a people who have got to come along and be a part of what you're talking about. And they've got to agree. The first thing is that they've got to agree that this is what they want. This is the mandate they want to go after. And you've got to do a lot of convincing, Dr. Kevin King, that this is the way that you must go
and you've got to do some serious soul searching to get the people on the same place. Well, get the people at the same place where you are, my friend. That's what I'm talking about. So those three things, that Westminster system, that two-party system, you know, people just want to just go about things their way. They love this two-party system. They don't even want to have another third party come in at all. And they seem to love this two-party system. They seem to love this Westminster system, even though we don't ever pay any homage to it. We don't go by the honor system of that system. But the thing about it is that the people love it because they get by with it. Then you talk about the IMF, the IDB, you know, the World Bank, all these institutions, the OECD. This is a way of life, as you explained in your initial show with me. This is a way of life because people have been doing it that way for so long, since independence. I don't know if the business community and anybody else would even embrace the kind of things that you're talking about. But I do say, you're talking a good talk. You sound strong. You sound enthusiastic. Now, what say you as a part of all of those things?
Steve, where I challenge the citizenry of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas is look where we came from 1967 all the way to 1992, and see where we are today. There has been mass deterioration in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
I agree with that.
There's been corruption levied against each party every single 5 years. You have the same issues. Bahamas Air, you know you're going to have problems. Every Christmas, it's the same problem. Every holiday, it's the same problem. But the opening of school, it's the same thing. Every 5 years. Every 5 years, you have issues with the civil service. This one is not paid. Customs on strike. Immigration. It is such anarchy going on.
Dr. Kevin King, we know the problems, you know. I know that you know the problems, and you've been able to enunciate all of these problems. But I'm saying, the key is how you're going to get these people to understand where you're coming from. Because I like the idea.
Education, Steve.
I like the idea. The kingdom government sounds very, very strong. It sounds like something that Dr. Miles Monroe had been talking about for umpteen years. And by the way, we've been playing him recent times on the station because he's been talking about a number of things with the Haitian nationals and all that. So people are in the mood for this kind of thing. And the truth of the matter is the people really want to embrace change. They are trying to get away from the two-party system. We know that. They're trying to figure out how are we going to come up with this another system. You call it the parliamentary, the Republic parliamentary system.
Yes.
All of those things, you've got to teach the people what these things are and how they will work in our best interest. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself stuck in a quagmire. That's correct. That you just can't get through. And while you're doing a good job of teaching the people what it's all about, people are sometimes not willing to go along because they just don't understand.
Okay. This is one of the things that I've found right now, Steve. I understand where the old mindset is.
Okay.
Okay? That is where the most difficult challenge is in the Moses generation. Because there's a new generation. Remember back in July of 2017, when I appeared on Hard Copy right after independence, and that was right after the general election.
Right.
I said, there is a group of people out there that are waiting to hear the message.
Absolutely.
Okay? Those are the Joshua generation. Those are the millennials. Those are the only ones that can really come into the promised land. Now, mind you, there are a lot of the Moses generation that wants to come in as well because they have the experience. But I'm not concerned about the mindset of those that we cannot change. We have to understand there are those that will just never change.
Very true.
Okay? For instance, Kevin King. I'm Mr. PLP. Born in it. Bred in it. Eat it. There isn't a time I didn't campaign for the PLP.
Understood?
My father...
But you now want change.
Yes. My biological father was instrumental in the Brennan and folks transfer to the PLP during that time. You know Sam Stubbs.
Okay.
Of course, I met Tom Stubbs.
Okay.
He's now in Miami or West Palm Beach.
Yes,
somewhere.
yes. Okay, so
Yeah.
I steep in this. My stepfather was a branch manager in Grand Bahama. He was instrumental in getting Kendall Nordage out of Grand Bahama. And the PLP came down on him, even though I still did not leave. Some of my other family members left and went to the F&M. What damaged my stepfather was that he wrote in the papers, help me to destroy this monster that I helped to create. And when he joined the F&M, they did nothing for him neither.
This is Sam?
No, this is Cleveland.
Cleveland, okay.
Okay? So I know about this system. All right? When you say PLP for life, I can't follow blind leadership. I used to take people to the polls with my mom and my dad.
So now you're exiting the
Yes.
PLP. You're trying to find your own way. You believe, after lots of studying, that this is the way to go to exit totally from a PLP government, the regime that we've been under. And you believe now that the best thing to do is to start something brand new, something fresh.
Yes.
And you believe the kingdom government is it.
Yes, because we are not a political party, you know. We are a movement. But our mandate is to shake up this two-party system. It can either be removed or it can be modified. But it cannot continue because this is a part of the Westminster.
Modification is something that you would
however the Bahamian people decide, because you cannot ignore the Bahamian people. Their will.
You cannot.
Their will is what will make everything happen. If they decide they don't want change this time, then they get the government they deserve.
So let me ask you this thing. You believe that people would like to see change at this time, presently. You think that they'd like to see change. You're not willing to stick it out and say, well, they didn't see it this time, but maybe they're going to see it the next time around. Or is there something that is in your head that says, it must happen this time. If it don't happen this time, then the people just don't want to do no better.
I'm not going anywhere. But what I will say is, if you see the PLP or the F&M when in 2022, many laws will be changed in our political arena.
Many laws will be changed.
Many laws will be changed.
In reflection of what the people outside the Bahamas wants?
Yes. You will not.
Like for what? For instance, like what?
Steve, it'll be very difficult for anyone else to run against these two organizations.
You really think so?
And I want you to know one thing. They work together, Steve. They will work together in this election to make sure the status quo remains the same. This is a real challenge. This is an uphill battle, no doubt about it. Like Leslie Miller said, the money changers will stop him. All of them are money changers.
That stayed in your head, eh?
That stayed in my head. But we fear not the money changers because we know whose we are and who we believe in. And if the Bahamian people say we've had enough, then they will make the change. Silently. You may not see them in mass numbers, but they will go to the polls just like they did in the referendum and shock the entire world.
Kevin King, you know, people believe in numbers. They believe in seeing things happen through numbers. And if you don't eventually, you know, showcase the numbers that you're talking about and demand the change that you would like to see, it's not going to happen simply because people are going to go where a lot of people are. And like I said, I like the idea of the kingdom government. I think it's refreshing. I don't know how many people are like myself who is impressed with the fact that here's a man who's done his tremendous research. He's studied all of this stuff. He's brought it all together. It is given to us on a silver platter and say, look, this is some things that I want to get done at this particular time. You took us back through the whole history of our existence, Pinling and everybody else. You told us about what had happened from that day with the people from the IMF and the IDB and all these people coming and imposing themselves upon the Bahamas. Now we see it. You brought it to light. We said, boy, you know, these guys have really done a serious job on the Bahamas, and they really own us. We don't really have anything to say. I mean, they really own us. We are doing everything they want to do, including the World Trade Organization. They're doing all of these things to us. We want to own something. We want to become owners. We want to have our own say in our own way of doing things. But the truth is, how are they going to really know this definitively if they don't have the proof, the verification of it, so that people can know that this is what Dr. King then brings to the table, this is why we must get on board, and this is what we must do. See, the must do is a very important part of it.
Steve, we have a public relations team. You will soon start to see a media blitz via social media. You will soon see us have offices opening in Grand Bahama, New Providence. Yes, people, it's just like going to the supermarket. People shop with their eyes. They need to see, touch, taste, and feel.
You better believe it.
Okay? So we have done this incrementally. And not, we haven't been chasing any waterfalls and chasing fires. You don't go chasing after everything that the government does. We have to stay focused to our message. One of the things that I've learned over the years, let's say with the DNA, the PLP government and the FNM government dictated exactly what Randall McCartney did.
Is that right?
Every time they did something, he had something to say. Every time they did something, he had something to say.
I see.
He could never get his message across to the Bahamian
So they
people.
dictated to him.
He never resonated.
They made him answer that.
They made him answer
I
that.
see. Your strategy is completely
Yes, we want to change the conversation. Whether they do OBAN, whether they do this, it matters not to us what they do, because you can't influence the government in any way. The opposition can't. So what makes you think a private citizen can influence what they do? Like Brent Simon had said, we have to govern for 5 years and we will do what we want, and when that 5 years is up, then let the chips fall where they may. Okay? So if we don't stay focused on our message and we get deterred and detracted running after everything the government does, then we will lose the people, because they'll never have an opportunity to hear what kingdom government is all about.
So here it is now, you're talking about a number of things that you must do. One of the things that you must do is talk about this OBAN deal, even though people are believing that it's off the table. It's not quite yet off the table because Mr. Minnis still has himself in a rut. I'll explain that. And of course, you must talk about the fact that on the other side of the paradigm, where there's the PLP, there's Fred Mitchell and company talking about how they're going to get things prepared to a point where they are now getting ready to, I suppose, create, select new candidates. See, so they are out in the game. They're doing some things right now. That's what I'm saying to you.
So let me address that. Let me address that.
Hold on a second. I want to say this because, see, at the end of the day, you are preaching about a new kingdom government. That's a long work, a lot of work. It's got to be understood so that people can catch on to it and run with it. While you're doing that, Mitchell is talking about selecting candidates. While that's happening, the Prime Minister and his group are continuously campaigning. The campaign has never stopped. They've been campaigning from God knows when, and it's still happening right now. They're campaigning on the family violence. The family violence is where the thrust of the matter is going to be, and Minnis and company plans to do a lot of things in the family violence. I don't know if he's really, I can't say this for sure, but I don't know if really he has his mind on New Providence at all. That may be a motivator for you guys in the kingdom government to look at, but he is campaigning heavily in the family violence. Now, on this OBAN thing, I must say this here, since we're talking about it right now. The OBAN deal, the Prime Minister is totally compromised. People may not see that. He is totally compromised on this issue. He doesn't even want to talk about it. He doesn't want to talk about the OBAN thing anymore. He says he's simply working on a bigger deal. That's what he now says. The last story I read in the newspapers, he was saying, I'm working on a bigger deal. He said something along the line, I have no time to talk nonsense today, he told the media. I'm working on a bigger deal. The deal costs the PM too much. Lots of things it cost him. He fired the Minister of Environment, responsible for the EPA. He also fired the man, Reese Chipman, who was in charge of Histories and Monuments Affairs. He because he got in the way. That was a part of what they were doing. And now Oban is actually ready to do a deal in the Bahamas government. And now while Oban is ready to deal, the PM and his team are trying to pull back and duck. You know our word, duck? He's trying to duck Oban officials. Perhaps he heard the people to leave Oban alone. See, that's one thing. Now, that's going to be a compromising thing for him. That's going to be a caveat, a nice feather in the hat of the PLP if this thing backs out and fails. That's what's happening to the PM. On the other hand, Fred Mitchell, who I will play an insert from in a minute, he believes that the Progressive Liberal Party is really ready to be re-elected to office in the next general election. Yeah. This is what he's going on. Yeah. Had a meeting last night. The party's chairman, Fred Mitchell, is now laying out the guidelines for new candidates for the PLP, and it appears to be above board for those of you thinking the contrary. See, this is another situation that you've got to deal with your kingdom government. Mitchell was deliberate in claiming he doesn't mind if what he had to say goes public, because the PLP is serious and focused on what it must do to win the next general elections. Okay, so that's not ready yet. That's not ready yet, but I'm going to continue to talk. I'm going to continue to talk because I want to let you hear that as a means of what is happening right now with the PLP as they plan to become the next government. On top of all that, gentlemen, on top of all that, you've got this Frank Smith case. The Frank Smith case seems to be going down a road, a slippery slope, where the PLP may seem to be good in this particular case, and they may somehow get a breakthrough, and they may eventually, as a party, win this case. I say that. The other thing is that while they're doing that, today, a lot of people got locked up in Grand Bahama. I'm sure you've heard about that.
Yes.
Now, the people who got locked up in Grand Bahama, they are to be paraded around just like others in the government, previous government, were paraded around in handcuffs and all that kind of stuff. And the PLP has retained counsel for them. So they now have counsel getting ready to represent all these people who have been locked up just today. And all of these things now means that, boy, look here, the PLP is now on the move. The PLP has some things going for it. And so who's to say now? But I hear Dr. King, them talking about this kingdom government and and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, but we in trouble. This is a dig-in situation for the two parties to now dig in. And if you follow my drift, the two parties now going to dig in and say, boy, you know, I'm with this PLP, I'm with this F&M. I hear what Dr. King is saying. I can leave that for right now, or I want to embrace that, or I want to be a part of that. But you see, the main focus of the Bahamian people right now is all of this stuff that's happening. All of this stuff that's happening in the governance of this country. And that's what I'm saying. Doc, your challenges are great. I don't want to fool you. I want to say to you, the challenges are great, but you can do it. I know that you can do it. The challenges are great, but of course you've got to do it because the people are looking for a change.
Yes. Yes. Steve, the change that they seek is something that they were not aware of. Okay? And I always say from 2002 they've been looking for a change, but they haven't had a viable alternative. Okay? I understand what the Progressive Liberal Party is doing and having new folks come in and new young people, but that's not change.
That's joining the same old...
Yes, and it doesn't change the party neither, because they've done that before.
Understood.
All right. The Prime Minister, Perry Christie, he brought in all these new young... Remember, it's called bridging the gap between the old and the new.
Bridge to the future.
Bridge to the future. They've gone down this road before. When you get in Parliament, you'll realize that you can't do anything. You sit there and you just bang on the desk. you have no say.
Finished deal.
Finished deal. You have no say. So what is that going to show the country? You have a lot of new young faces sitting down in Parliament just banging on the desk.
You need real change.
You need real change.
Systemic
Systemic change. Structural change. It's not going to happen.
And I'm with you on that.
It won't happen. So I'm glad that they are launching their campaign now. Because when the kingdom government descends, everything moves like a rippled water. See, remember, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're to the pulling down of the strongholds. And that's what we have that they don't have.
But one good thing that I see that you've got here today in the room with us, you've got two brilliant young men, Samuel Johnson, who is the chairman of and director of the chairman of the party, and of course the Kingdom Movement, I should say, and security as well, right?
Yes, the Director of Security.
Director of Security. And you are interested in doing a number of things because you believe in this philosophy, you believe in the dynamics of what the kingdom government is all about, right?
Yes, sir.
You can tell me a little bit more in just a minute. Let me just introduce Derek Bullitt, who's also here. He's the Director of Research and Information, Development of Infrastructure, and I know that you sound all technical with a number of things, and so you're going to get a number of things done. Last week we had Jeffrey Simonet on the show, and so, but week before last we had Jeffrey Simonet on the show, and he was quite impressive. And I'm saying that he got a number of people who called and said, boy, you know, Jeffrey is them, they're going to go get some algae out of the water, and when they get this algae, they're going to do all kinds of things. And, you know, one guy did not understand it, which was Leslie Miller, and I said, no, they're going to get algae out of the water, it can happen. And so this was a new scientific approach to one of the fellows who Dr. King would call the Moses generation, you see? Yeah. So I'm saying today, you have some things to say. I want you to share it with us because you may convince some people as to why they need to go with a kingdom movement government.
Yes, before you go to Derek, let me clarify that issue with Mr. Miller and Adam who called in. We don't believe in drilling for oil and ruining our pristine waters. What the old guard feels is that the only way to reduce electricity is to reduce the cost of fuel.
Understood.
That was Leslie's whole thing. You can introduce so many technologies that we will be depending less on fossil fuel.
Understood.
Okay?
This is also a new way of thinking for a number of people.
Exactly. See? So when we talk about jet fuel, we were saying that the byproducts of that technology, that particular one, we have many, the jet fuel is a byproduct of that. Biofuels is a byproduct of that. Diesel is a byproduct of that. Cooking gas is a byproduct of that. These are byproducts that will generate revenue for the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. They just didn't understand the concept. Mr. Miller talked about costs. The Bahamas is not broke. And we are not concerned whether or not Dr. Minister, or Most Honorable Dr. Minister, if they leave the Treasury broke or not.
You're not concerned about that?
I'm not concerned about that because we have means of generating revenue for the government.
New income.
For the first time, new income.
I see.
So I'm not concerned about that. What every government does when they go into power, the first thing they do is they go and they borrow. Because they say, there's not sufficient there for us to carry out our programs. You will not find that in the KGM. That means they have no creativity, they have no ingenuity, they want to continue the same pattern that they've been doing for the past 25 years. So Mr. Miller, sir, I'm not going to say this is above your pay grade, but what I'm saying is...
you might as well say that.
You have to understand, this is a whole different paradigm. You know, ideas that will do what, Steve?
Blow your mind.
Blow your mind.
Understood. Well, listen, we want to talk with Samuel Johnson here today because, you know, he has a lot of ideas. I'm assuming he has a lot of ideas because he's the chairman of this organization called the Kingdom Government Movement. And, of course, it is fantastic that he has this particular spot, and I know that he's going to do his very, very best to make sure that things happen in this Kingdom Government Movement. So, what do you have to say to us, my good friend, today?
Thank you, Brother McKinney, and it's a pleasure you listening and viewing in Radio Land, TV Land, further to what our leader passionately presented about this change. We are aware, Brother McKinney, that change is not easy. It comes with a price. And we know what it is we are about, ushers in change, distinct change. That being the case, we understand that the two-party politics we have now that is entrenched in our Constitution, that's why we need constitutional change as well, is such that our mandate, and I like the way both you and our leader zeroed in on the Moses generation in drawing that history. What I want to share with us Bahamas is that we are at an exciting crossroad. The journey from bondage to freedom was 40 years in the wilderness. After the 40 years, they did not enter the promised land. They were confronted with the Jericho War. That Jericho War took them 6 days of marching around one time. And on the 7th day, they marched 7 times. We, Brother McKinney, is at our 45th, this year will make us 46 years of independence. 6 days we are contenting with this Jericho War. The
wall was come down.
The 7th day is upon us. And what I'm saying to us, Bahamaland, that the call and the mission we are on is prophetic. That Jericho wall speaks to the system. Our system is our greatest hindrance to our possession.
Oh boy, I understand you very clearly.
And so that wall will come down. The only way we, the masses of the people, will be able to inherit this land is for that wall to come down. That wall, why we say we have majority rule, yet less than 10% of the people own more than 90% of the wealth in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. What's going to happen?
Something got to be wrong with that.
Something is definitely wrong. What's going to happen? What the kingdom government movement is positioning itself for. And that's why we will be a viable alternative, because there's a new paradigm. It's what Sir Lyndon and all of those done, the Honorable Hubert Ingram, the Honorable Perry Christie, our present Honorable Minister, they are doing what they are mandated to do in bringing us to our destiny. It is not their mandate to share with the distribution with the wealth of this land. And that's why our leaders speak to the trust for generation. And so the clarion call will be given to all able, willing, body men and women in this country to step forward and let's shape the next and new Bahamas.
What has been your focus here in the nation of the Bahamas? Do you feel as if you have proper candidates, that you have that all able men and women to be coming to the forefront to take this whole thing and wrestle with it and make it happen for the Bahamian people?
Brother McKinney, our leader, our visionary leader, has such an awesome plan. And this party, moving forward, will continue to unveil the plan. This unveiling includes some dynamic persons we seek not to disclose at this time. I will say this much. When Sir Lyndon took over this country, the leaders through that wilderness experience, this is the first time in the history of this country that the Bahamian people are able to effectively manage and command every aspect of the next and new Bahamas. All of the skill set, all of the training, all the resources are in place. And guess what? They are making themselves available. And yes, Brother McKinney, that's why I'm saying, that's why our leader said to you earlier, we are not going to allow ourselves to be distracted.
Stay on message. Stay on message.
We on a mission. We have a vision. We have a plan. We are moving forward to that realization. Kingdom government movement will be a viable alternative to governance in this country because we have a mandate. The problem where we at now, and Bahamian, we need to recognize and understand this, that the time has come for the fair distribution of the wealth of this land. And so we call ourselves the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, yet the wealth is not common.
I hear what you're saying, and I want to stop you here just because of the fact that we've seen so many people come to and fro, and they've said to us, you know, the things that we need to go and lay hold of will be the aragonite, the calcium carbonate, all these kinds of things. We've heard other political parties come and go, and they've talked about all these things, and the people got high on it. They love it. They love the sound of that. But at the end of the day, most of those parties have faded, or it's said to have been faded. They may still be around somewhere in the back there, but the point is they're not being heard anymore. So the trouble is, what's going to happen to this particular situation that you're now bringing about, the wealth and wealth distribution and all those kinds of things? I love the part with the Jericho Wall and all that. I love that. That's very, very spiritual. But when you start to talk about wealth distribution and making sure that people have, and people are motivated by that for sure. But how is this going to be sustained in a way that's going to really propel people to the point of, we are doing this no matter what. This is the mission that we're on. This is what we're talking about.
Brother McKinney, I'm glad you raised that point, because the Kingdom Government Movement Plan is inclusive. It addresses every aspect of Bahamian life. The unveiling of the economic plan, the unveiling of the social plan, the unveiling of the educational plan, the unveiling of the health plan, all come together to bring about what it is the new and next Bahamas will look like. And when we say there is a work for every Bahamian and every Bahamian is a worker, Brother McKinney, the new and next Bahamas encompasses all. And so we're not relying or depending on natural resources to bring about that sustained focus to ensure that what we seek to do happen. The natural resources is just a part of what we are about.
Just one part of it.
It's just a part of what we are about. And mind you, what we have, we don't even need to tap into natural resources right now. What we are doing, Brother McKinney, is seeking best we can to inform and enlighten the Bahamian people as to who we are and where we are as a nation. And the vision of this party is be made so clear that those persons with the skill set, those persons who are willing and able to work as they step forward, they're going to be engaged. Because this is our Bahamas.
No question about it.
We have a responsibility to change the wrong that all we are doing, Brother McKinney, really is bringing good governance to what we have. That's all. Kingdom government has to do with kingdom laws and kingdom principle. If we look after the widows, the poor, the fatherless, if we care for our social ill alone, it would bring a massive turnaround in this country.
You can certainly say that these days, because we've seen cases in the past where our children have not been taken care of from a government point of view through the social situation that we now have in the Bahamas. And we've seen so many things that have happened here in our midst that will make us cry shame and say, boy, we can really do better than that. But you see, more importantly, you have all of these people who are part of the IMF, the IDB, the OECD, and all of these other institutions, all of the people from the United Nations and all these other places who have been infringing upon our rights, who have been imposing upon us. I would basically like to say, who've been imposing upon us. These are some things that we want. And as they go, and as we are going now these days, it's the way the world is going. That's what they're saying to us. And so it seems to me as if we've got so many things to get done in such a short time. I don't know how quickly these things will come into being. And I know that you've not finished, and we're going to get back with you, but I want to get...
There's no fair here. There is no fair.
I want to get in Derek Bullitt, because I see that Derek Bullitt is the fellow who's now in charge of research and development and all that kind of stuff, infrastructure. What do you bring to the table under this kingdom government?
Again, good afternoon, Bahamas, and thank you, Mr. McKinney. What I'm bringing to the Bahamas is something that Bahamians actually always thought about, but don't know how to produce it, or don't know how to bring it about.
I understand.
So what we're bringing to them, the new way of let's say, for example, how can we capitalize on avoid bringing items into this country, and we can do it ourselves. And so what's going to happen is we will literally get kids right out of school, straight into a job, and use their talent. Because what we lack in this country is to focus on kids who have great talent, but because we don't see it to be an office-style talent.
I see. We don't use them.
We don't use them. They get put to a side, and so they're playing the blocks. And so what we're doing is we're trying to harness that now, and we do have the formula for it.
I see. That's one of the things that you've got.
It's one of the things that
Understood.
we got. The next thing that we have going on is the remedy for the power supply in this country. And I already have a scale drawn to it. We can produce megawatts with no fuel being used.
Say what?
Not even waste management.
No fuel being used.
Yes.
Leslie Miller would like that one.
Yeah.
You better say it again. He's on tomorrow, you know.
But Leslie Miller's a good friend of mine. Hello, Leslie Miller. By the way, Derek Bullitt here, your friend in the construction area. Samuel Johnson just hit on it a while ago concerning our resources. We don't need to move certain resources in order for this country to move ahead. We use it in a way where it benefits everybody, but not so much the Araganites, etc. So our portfolio, or my portfolio that I have put in place, some things I've already came up with. Dr. King gave me the bullet. You're not going to share this with anybody because this kingdom come.
Yeah.
All right? And that's what we're all about. So
I understand. A lot of it you've got to keep kind of hush-hush right now. I understand.
We can't.
But the day must come when you have to reveal, because the people need to know exactly what you're bringing to the table.
And that time will be at the right time. You see what I'm saying? Because that means there's no excuses for the opposition when this come about.
You need something to get over. You need something to get over. I don't know what that thing is to get over, to impose upon the people. This us now. We ready. This is who we are. You want to listen to what we're saying?